Morning. It's another Monday morning, start of another week. So it's 8:30. So here I am with another Facebook Live. So purpose of these little Facebook Live shows is to answer your questions. So come along and join me today. And if you like what you're seeing, great. Comment, that's good. But really ask a question. It could be current and topical, something about lockdown or coronavirus and how property's functioning in this environment, because it's a bit weird for all of us, isn't it? So I'll share some stuff that came through over to me over the weekend in a minute or two, but certainly, yeah, pop in and fire a question and I'll very happily answer it. I aim to be here for about 30 minutes, still about 9, but if we get more engagement and more questions, then I'll carry on until I answer all those questions. So yeah, now let's start off with what's a bit of what's happening at the moment. So a few people messaged me over the weekend and said, Kevin, when are you going to start doing your live events again? Your and by that they mean venue-based events. And I had to answer, honestly, I don't know. It's not within my control to do that. So we're going to have to wait and see how the lockdown or the phased release of lockdown is drawn. I think it's clear that there is going to be a phased release. We're not going to go back to normal in one fell swoop. It's going to be a staggered release of certain activities that we're allowed to do, and quite where live business meetings for small groups of people come in, that is not yet clear. I think one thing is going to be clear is that whenever any of us attend any live meeting, social distancing precautions will need to be taken for, I would guess, the rest of 2020 really. And I've already sort of considered how that could work at the live events I run. And you're going to have to really have seating spaced out with the 2 meter social distancing around them. So that's got to be catered for. So we're going to be needing sort of bigger hotel rooms, really. So, but when that happens, who knows? When property, I mean, when are we going to be able to be doing property again in the way we do it? Well, that's a bit up in the air as well, isn't it? Really, we don't know. I think it seems clear that some sort of phased release of drawdown is going to come out in the next few weeks. Quite what businesses or what activities are going to be allowed, we don't know. I can't see that property would be too far away from the forefront. Thanks for that question, Sam. Appreciate that. I'll come to that in a minute or so. And anyone else got some questions, fire them away. Happy to answer them. So yeah, it's I would have thought property would be in the earlier rather than the later phases because, well, 2 reasons really. I think one is that it's it's a fairly chunky part of the UK economy, and if we can get property running again, and people can view properties and valuers can value properties, and we can complete purchases and refinancing and all that type of thing. Well, that's going to be some economic activity that we really need. B Mindset, hi, how you doing? Have you got a question? If so, pop it in the chat. So yeah, I think from an economic point of view, it makes sense to get property back up and functioning as quickly as we can. But again, from this social distance is going to be key, because we're all, the big concern is we don't have a second spike of infections that causes us to go back into lockdown again. So to me, property would seem to be fairly easy to observe social distancing. I mean, if you're going to go and view a property that's vacant, that's fine. Pick the keys up from the agent or wherever. Go and view it. Drop the keys back. No real human interaction there. And if it's a occupied property, so whether they're the owners there or the tenants there, well, I think, you know, it should be fairly simple to keep social distancing on that. You know, as you go around the house viewing it, the people that live there stay in a different room. So, you know, you can move that around that. So that would seem okay. I mean, if it's a nice day, like some of the nice days we've had, maybe they can sort of go and sit in the garden for a few minutes while you go around. So, hi, Eugene. Good to have you on board. Feel free to ask a question. So yeah. So I'm hoping that you know, property is going to get back functioning. You know, within the next few weeks, certainly, rather than a few months. So, but what do I know? You know, time will tell. So, Sam said, you'd like to get a residential mortgage in Wales and look to refurbish. Okay. Good. Okay. So now, buy a residential mortgage and look to refurb. Perhaps you give us a clarity on there, Sam. You know, does this mean one for you to live in, or one for you that you're going to rent out? So is it this residential mortgage? You know, the implication on that is that it's a house that you want to live in. You live in South Wales and you want to buy a house to live in South Wales. So just give me some clarification on that, please. So you'd like to know how I go about getting a house to home loan. Is it to do with loan to value, H2H, have an 80% requirement? So do you mean H2B? Do you mean help to buy? Is that what you mean? So I'm going to need some more clarity on that. Okay, so it's one to live in. Yeah, okay. So yeah. So you would, how do you do that? Well, you apply for a main residence mortgage. Now, they would give you certain sort of tolerance. So if you wanted to refurbish it, the property would need to be functional. So in other words, it doesn't have to be in tip-top condition. It could need a refurb, but because you're going to live in it, as long as you can function in it, and by that I mean the 3 daily tasks of human living, so that's cook, toilet, and wash. As long as you can do those 3 things in there, Sam, even if it's all a bit tatty, you should be okay on a mortgage. So how do you qualify? Is now on a main residence mortgage, it's all about income, all about provable income. So you know, lenders are going to want to know what you do for a living. They're going to know, you know, is it employed or self-employed, and they want to see proof of the taxable income that you earn. So if it's employed, there'll be pay slips and P60, your latest P60, and if it's self-employed, they'll want to see the accounts that you submit to the taxman, and probably a certificate of tax paid, which is called an SA 302. They will then look at that, and then they want to see something about your lifestyle. So are you single? Are you married? Do you live with someone? Do you have children? Are they dependent? So they want to look at that. They want to look at how many loans or credit cards you've got, and how much of your salary does that eat up. Then also want to look at the potential for future interest rate rises. I mean, interest rates are really, really low at the moment, aren't they? But they would factor that in. And then you know, each lender that you looked at would come to a conclusion about how much you could borrow. So you know, it's a quite an involved process, and you might ask, why is that? Oh, by the way, if anyone else has got any questions, once I finish with Sam's one, ping it in the chat box, and I'll deal with it very happily. So a couple of people sort of commented hi and that sort of thing, but haven't actually put a question. So pop a question in there, and there we are. Oh, one from Jerry. Great. Okay, great. Thanks for Jerry. Ping that one. I'll come to that one. Anyone else got a question? Pop it in there. So yeah, Sam, really, it's quite an involved process. You can do it yourself, direct to any lender, but the issue with that is, you know, I mean, let's say you when you're able to, you pop into Barclays, or you phone them up and do a telephone interview. Now, they're not going to say to you, Sam, now, you seem like a good guy, but hey, pop along to Nationwide because they're doing better deals than us right now for you. So the issue with going direct to a lender is you're going to get a one-eyed view of the mortgage market. You're only going to get a view of what they can do and what they can offer you and what they're prepared to lend to you. So this is where brokers come in really handy, because a broker would take your circumstances and look across the market, certainly if they're a whole of market broker, and see what various lenders are prepared to offer you and then give you the best. So that's a great way to get the best deals that are on the market for you personally. Okay, so a house to home offer, because that may be something that just operates in Wales, Sam. So they give you 25 grand to refurb houses that have been unoccupied for 6 months. Yep. I think it is a Wales scheme, yeah. But seems as, hey, that's a good scheme, because, you know, there are, I think, getting on for about 1 million houses across the UK that are abandoned in one form or another, and you know, and we've got a chronic shortage of limited living accommodation for the number of people in this country. So, you know, anything like that, I think, is a great idea. Yeah, you know, and if you want to get us to help you on that, Sam, then just, you know, get in touch. Give me a message. Text me a message. I'll put my contact number in the box. Okay. So just text me a message when that comes in there, Sam, and one of our other brokers will be happy to help you on that and see what actually you can get, and we'll take you through that scheme. So yep. So I wish you luck with finding your first house. Probably a good time to sort of buy one now. And if you found one of these homes that needs refurbing, then great. And if you're going to get 25 grand to cover the refurb cost, you can get yourself a nice house, can't you? Okay, brilliant. Okay, so not sure whether you're in South Wales or North Wales or wherever, but good luck with that. And if we can help, we're happy to. Okay, so there we got. Okay, now question from B Mindset. So good to have you here, B. And how would a bridge assuming a full market value, a full market purchase bridge work on a property with a short lease? Okay, now that's a good question that'll probably have a more complex answer than I can probably go into fully here. So short leases are a big problem. Anything less than, well, 60 and certainly 50 years left on a lease on a flat. I mean, predominantly it's going to be flats in England and Wales. Almost every flat, 99% of something of flats, a leasehold. So, and the problem is that as the lease ticks down, it becomes in a stagnant market, the value of the flat decreases year on year as the lease ticks down. So that's a worry for lenders. And also, if the lease never gets reviewed, it actually goes down to zero, and the leaseholder forfeits the right to live there. They're effectively evicted, and the freeholder assumes control of the flat. So all of that stuff really spooks lenders. So once you get below 50 years, it's virtually impossible to get a mortgage on it. But it's a whole process about extending the lease. So now, and that is a complex process. You need to have a you can't trust any standard solicitor to do a lease extension. You have to have a specific leasehold enfranchisement solicitor who are specialised in this thing. We work with two, so people that we're helping them out, we refer them to them, and they get expert guidance on that. And it's legally it's a very expensive thing. So don't think that arranging the legal fees for arranging a lease are comparable with the cost of conveyancing on a normal property. You'd expect to pay probably 10 to 20 times the legal fees because it's a prolonged and involved negotiation with the freeholder's solicitor to extend that lease. So it involves delay completion. So you lock the current leaseholder in by exchanging the contracts, and then delay the completion if you can until the lease extension process is complete, and that can take anything up to 6 to 12 months. Now we've got an experience, of doing this. So if you've got an actual property in mind, then again, get in touch with me, because this is actually a strategy that I teach on my Ninja Investor Program training course, which is has venue based when we can do it situations, and also it's fully online as well. So people are studying that right now, and how to do short leases is one of the strategies that I specifically teach, and exactly how a bridge works. But so you won't get a bridge on the full market value of the extended lease until the day the lease is extended. Now, sometimes we've wrapped up the purchase, so it's all in one transaction. Sometimes you have to, because the seller can't wait 6 to 12 months, you have to buy it earlier. So then it's a two-stage bridge. So you get you bridge initially to purchase it on the current value, and then you get a further advance from the bridge that covers, in most cases, it will cover 100% of the lease extension cost. I think it's a great strategy for two reasons. One is that there's a never-ending supply of short leases. There are millions of flats in England and Wales, and every one of them has their lease ticking down. So ones that weren't a problem 10 years ago are a problem now, and there's an opportunity. And ones that are not problem now will be an opportunity in 10 years' time. And so there's a never-ending resource of these deals to do, if you like it. So availability is a great advantage. Another advantage is that because they're invariably unmortgageable, there's not much interest in them. So if you're going after the standard cosmetic refurb properties, and you're seeing tens of other investors all clambering to try and get this deal, you won't find that with short leases. And in some cases, once agents know that you want to do short leases, they'll actually go and find them for you. So agents are very unused to being asked, have you got any short lease properties? So again, that's the bonus on that, is it makes you memorable. So you can quite quickly escalate yourself up to one of an agent's preferred investors if you're looking for short leases. So there's a whole lot of stuff that I can do to help you if that's the strategy you want to run through. So but bridging is used extensively to get to buy short leases, because it gets round the issue if you structure it right. By getting the current leaseholder to issue the Section 42 notice, you don't have to wait 2 years before you can apply to extend the lease. So great strategy. I'm glad you asked that question, because it's one that, you know, the short lease deals are one that I love getting involved in and guiding and teaching and mentoring investors on. So seeing your question, Clive, thanks for that. I'm going to answer Jerry's one first, and then we'll answer your question. So that's great. So let's make sure we haven't missed one. No, there we are. So Jerry, okay. Jerry says, "Hope you're well." I am well, actually, Jerry. Yes, and certainly aiming to stay that way in today's environment. How are lenders valuing at the moment, and are lenders down valuing property to mitigate the risk? Okay, good questions there on valuers. So many valuers aren't valuing properties at all. So what we've seen is valuers respond in 4 ways to lenders. So some valuers, and particularly the bigger national ones, have shut up shop, said we're not valuing. We would class it as unessential travel, and under the terms of the lockdown, we're not sending any of our valuers out. So that's one response. Second response is some value firms, surveyor firms, are saying, well, if the property is vacant and we can just pick up the keys and go and value it, we'll do it. And there's a few. So what we're seeing is a fragmented response to this. And this, as I've said in other places, is because no one can look at their business plan that they wrote however many months or years ago and say, right, what was our contingency planning for a shutdown of the economy? No one's done that. So they're having to think up policy literally as they go. So some have said not doing anything. Some have said we'll actually go and visit the property as long as it's vacant and we don't have any human interaction while we're there. Others are saying we're going to be doing a drive-by. And the fourth response is we'll do a desktop or automatic valuation. In that respect, again, some lenders are saying we're not lending. Some lenders are saying, let's just process what we've got. Some lenders are saying, let's not process what we've got. Let's just bang everything on hold and pick it up when we're out of lockdown. But some lending activity is still going on. But lenders are warning to say, look, expect processing to take longer. We haven't got a full complement of underwriters. And if we have, they're working remotely anyway. So it's going to take us long to do, and it's going to take longer to arrange all the bits and pieces that we normally do. So expect application process to take longer. So we're not seeing too many valuations come back at the moment, but what we're seeing lenders saying is, some lenders have got a fragmented response. There's no uniform response to this. Every business is working out their own response, and often working it out as they go. So but where lenders are using a desktop valuation, they are saying that there's an increased possibility that it's not as accurate as a physical valuation. So what they're tending to do is to maybe offer a lower loan to value in some cases, but we're only going to this whole question about what values a property. So is the market going to drop or what? We're not really going to know. We can speculate, and of course that's what plenty of people are doing right now. They're speculating. Oh well, the property is going to drop 20. Property market, the values are going to drop 20%, and indeed they might, but we don't yet know. So, but I think although the reasons are very different, there are some lessons to be learned from the last big downturn with the credit crunch just over a decade ago. And coming out of that, at least initially, lenders were more cautious than they were going in. I mean, because of the excesses of pre-credit crunch lending, they were very much more cautious on the way out than they were on the way in. So it would seem sensible to expect that there would be a degree of cautiousness from lenders coming out. Now that could be their valuers valuing lower to mitigate risk, lenders trimming off some of their product range and their loan to value. So for example, we've seen that holiday let mortgages and serviced accommodation mortgages, those products have been slashed if and if they're available at all, and also commercial mortgages, because the perception is that you're not going to have income in any of those things in the way that you've had previously to maintain the mortgage payment. So those sort of peripheral products are being shut down now, and it's just main straightforward lending. So yeah, expect cautiousness across the board, I think, is about the best that we can say, until everyone's got a handle on where are we when we're out of lockdown. So I hope that answers your question, Jerry. Now let's have a look and see what we've got. So B said, okay, you're grateful for that. Brilliant. Save my number. Okay. So if, I'll support you on short lease properties, B, because I think it's a great strategy, and I can give you all the guidance you need to make that work for you. Okay. Theo, thanks for your question there. I'm going to deal with Clive first, and then I'll come to you. If anyone else has got a question, pop it in the box, and let's see how we go. Okay, so Clive, you would like my thoughts on purchasing property for social housing in the upcoming climate. Would it be more difficult to find mortgage lenders? Okay, so social housing. Now, this could potentially mean different things. So are you just talking about housing benefit tenants, or are you talking about where the authority, and it could be a local authority or housing association perhaps, that they actually get the your tenant, if you like, is the authority and not the person living in the property? So because there's a very different lending arrangement depending which that is. So if you're going to, if your ASTs are going to be with the tenant in situ, that's one situation, and they happen to be on benefit. But if your rental agreement is with the authority, who then put tenants in there, but you don't have any direct link with the tenants that go in there, then that's a completely different situation. So just give me some clarification on that, Clive, and whichever it is, I'll answer. And while you do that, we'll have a chat with Theo, and let's have a look at Theo's question. So pop that in there. So for a 21-year-old, starting from the ground up with no previous income, would you recommend going into serviced accommodation on a rent-to-rent basis, or getting a shared mortgage with a parent for buy-to-let? Okay, so well, both would. I think it's difficult to say. Would I recommend one over the other? I mean, both are legitimate ways to start. It's. I think the question is more, what can you do, and then you just choose your personal preference. So if you're going to go down the serviced accommodation route, well, that seems particularly hazardous at the moment, because you can't really get any customers for serviced accommodation. So serviced accommodation, is simply short-term letting. You rent by the night, much like a hotel do. Situation with that is that it's very difficult to, most hotels are shut. I haven't checked, but I think someone told me that Airbnb are not operating allowing people to book. Doing serviced accommodation at this time, until we've got freedom of movement, doesn't seem to be a practical strategy, because you're not going to earn much money at that. And the whole rent-to-rent thing is you've got to find a landlord with an empty property that wants to rent it out to you. And the point of that is you've got to pay them rent whether you find any serviced accommodation clients or not. So that would seem to be a big risk. The other thing to point out with serviced accommodation rent-to-rent is you really, if you're going to do that, and this is a wider thing for not just Theo, is that you really should only be targeting landlords that don't have a mortgage, because most mortgages, most investment mortgages, most buy-to-let mortgages have a clear and distinct clause in their terms and conditions which prohibit letting terms for less than 6 months. So if someone, not necessarily the person with the rental agreement, but if someone is staying in that property for less than 6 months, which clearly you are with serviced accommodation, then that is a breach of the mortgage terms. And when you breach the mortgage terms in a serious way like that, you give the lender the right to call in the loan and repossess the property. So you don't really want to be getting into that type of situation. So rent-to-rent is just seen that, Clive. So thanks for the clarification. I understand what you're doing, and I'll come back and answer your question now. Just finish off on Theo's. So serviced accommodation per se, not maybe the best strategy for 2020. Certainly until you see how the freedom of movement plays out. And when you are doing serviced accommodation on a rent-to-rent basis, your target, Theo, should only be landlords that have no mortgage, because then they're not going to breach any mortgage lender's terms. You could buddy up with your mum or dad or both and get a mortgage on a buy-to-let basis. That would work. Clearly, you're going to need a bigger amount of cash to do that, because you've got to put down a deposit. Typically, the deposit is 25%. So, and if you haven't got the money, then your mum and dad have got to. But that could be the reason people control property rather than buy it, and rent to lease options, rent to rent are all controlling strategies, not buying strategies, at least initially. So the reason they do that is to avoid having to put down big cash as a deposit. You still have to put, realistically, you still got to put some cash down. You've got legal contracts to draw up. You've got probably a bit of smartening up of the property most of the time. So, it's not a no cash strategy, but it probably is less cash than putting down a 25% deposit. I guess that was what you were meaning, Clive. Going through a housing association to pay the rent. So your agreement is with the housing association or local authority, whichever it is, or even charity. Charities do this as well. So what you've got is a commercial lease. You can't have an AST. You only have an AST with the person or persons that are living in the property. So if you're letting it out to a housing association that is your tenant, if you like, and then they put whoever they want in there, or not, as the case may be, it's actually a great strategy, because a very hands-off strategy, because you don't have to find tenants and you're not responsible for voids. You know, if it's empty for a month, not your problem. The housing association still pays you. So so that is a commercial lease. Usually it's 3 to 5 years, where we've seen them before, and buy-to-let lenders, standard buy-to-let lenders, are not going to entertain those. Haven't done previously, and no chance they were going to do that in the future. Very simple reason. Standard buy-to-let lenders like ASTs, because if you don't pay and they have to repossess, then the AST rental agreement gives them the ability to issue the tenants with 2 months notice to quit, so they can quickly get it vacant and put it on the market with vacant possession to sell. If you've got a 3 or 5 year agreement with a housing association, clearly they can't do that. The commercial agreement, tenancy agreement, doesn't have that facility, so therefore they won't lend. So this is the domain of commercial lenders. So it was before COVID-19, and it will be after, Clive. So is it going to be more challenging to find commercial lenders? Well, a bit more challenging at the moment because of lockdown. Once we're out of lockdown, I think there's as good a chance that you had before. What commercial lenders want to see is, okay, show us the lease agreement you've got lined up. So if you've got a housing association that you're already in negotiations with, then get them to agree to and sign, but not date, a lease agreement, and then we can take that and show that to commercial lenders. So I think it's a good strategy. You know, and there are several advantages. One is that it's a fully repairing lease, so you're not responsible for minor maintenance. I mean, if the roof needs doing, clearly you would have to do that. But you know, the normal things that tenants phone up landlords for, the housing association will take care of. And also, the other big advantage of that is you've got no voids. As I said, you've got no maintenance, but you've got no. If they're going to do it as an HMO, you've got no bills because they pay that, not you as the landlord, and you've got no agency fees either. So they can be very good. I think it's a great strategy. So if you need any help on that, Clive, then I put my number in there earlier. Then keep that, and let's help you with that. Very happy to do that. So we've got Felix here. Good to have you on, Felix. Welcome. Don't recognise the name, so in fact, don't recognise most of the names on here this morning. So it's great to see. Apart from Jerry, I've seen you before, Jerry. So good to see some different people coming on and asking questions, and I hope you're getting value from these Monday morning sessions, which I'm going to be doing certainly for the next few weeks. So, okay, so let's have a look at Felix's question. At the moment, it's the last one, so unless anyone else pops in and puts another question in there, we'll do Felix, and then we'll wrap up for this week, and I'll see you back again 8:30 next Monday morning. But okay, so what is the approximate cost? Felix says, what is the approximate cost to finance an HMO project purchase for a property worth 400,000? Okay, there's some other questions but let's deal with that first. Okay, what's the approximate cost to finance? So I'm guessing you're talking about the setup costs, Felix. Okay, well, you've got a valuation, and depending what, brilliant. Glad you like that, Clive. Glad you like that advice. Love to help you out further. So let's you know, at the appropriate time, let's chat more about that, and just get in touch with me privately. Happy to do that for you. Okay, so back to Felix and his what's the cost to finance an HMO project? I'm taking that to mean what's it going to set up. So what you're going to have some upfront costs. You're going to have a valuation fee. You're going to have your solicitor's legal fees. You're going set up and bridging finance. Okay, right. So thanks for the clarification. So valuation fee, solicitor's legal fees, mortgage lender's arrangement fee, and potentially a broker fee too. Valuation fee. Now, what that valuation fee is going to be would vary lender to lender because they all use different values. It's also going to vary on how many tenants you've got in your HMO. And if you've got more than 6, then expect the valuation to cost more. Legal fees are, again, also dependent upon which solicitor you're using. They'll all charge different amounts. But valuation fee, if you get it less than £500 for an HMO, you're doing well. If it's a bigger one, it could be £1,000 plus. But it's dependent on what you're doing. So solicitors' fees, again, if you get it less than £1,000, you're doing well. Arrangement fees, well, that's down to the lender and the product. But there's a correlation between arrangement fees and rate of interest. Lenders are not as daft as some people think they are. They know that some people don't want to pay arrangement fees, and some people want a low interest rate. So they'll generally have a product to cater for both people's preference. So those that say, "Oh, we don't like these big arrangement fees of 1.5%, or maybe even more," great, we'll do you a low or a no arrangement fee product, but we'll ramp up the interest rate as a consequence. And for people that say, "Oh, we don't like high rates, we want a really low rate of interest," great, yeah, we do it. A lender would say we'd do that. Here's a really low rate of interest, but we're going to whack up the arrangement fee to compensate. And now, you may not be surprised that if you looked at the total cost over, let's say, 2 or 5 years of the low arrangement fee or the low interest rate, they're going to come out virtually the same. So, the arrangement fee depends on what type of product you go for. It could be 0, could be anything between 1% and 2%. And again, brokers, depending on their organizational setup, may or may not charge a fee. If it's a one-man broker operating out of his dining room table or a spare bedroom, they might find that their overheads are less, so there's less need or inclination to charge you a fee. If you got dealing with a broker, it's a multi-broker operation with support staff and offices, they're more likely to charge a fee because they've got bigger overheads. So there's a lot of that's about as good as I can give you on an approximate cost. If you want to us to help you on that, then again, just take a note of the number that I posted earlier in the chat box, and happy to help you with that. And senior question, Beverly. So thanks for that. I'm going to finish off with Felix, and I'll answer your question, Beverly. And thanks for posting it. So back to the second element of Felix's question. You made an offer on a property last December. It was due to complete in March. It's on hold due to lockdown. Can I go back and renegotiate on the offer price given the pending price reductions in the market, although the purchase contracts have been signed already? Okay, so I guess and I understand what you're saying, and you could be in a position where you think, oh, I've overpaid. If property prices drop by 10 or 20% that some people say, oh dear, I've overpaid for the property. So the key point here, I think, is have you exchanged contracts yet or not? You say the purchase contracts have been signed already. Okay, so signing your contract and exchanging contracts are not the same thing. So in England and Wales, the contract to purchase a property becomes valid on the day or even the moment during the day that you actually exchange contracts. So if you're already locked into an exchange of contracts, then that's going to be difficult to renegotiate. Okay, you haven't exchanged contracts. Okay, so therefore your arrangement with the seller to buy that property is not yet legally binding. Now, clearly, I'm not a solicitor, so you should always refer to a solicitor for any legal advice, and certainly on the conveyancing. But from a layman's point of view, it's only a binding contract once you've exchanged. So it sounds like you're at the you've got as far as you've had it valued, you've got your mortgage offer out, and you and the seller, or certainly you, have signed your contract in preparation to be exchanged. So the seller might not be very happy about it, but you're not doing anything wrong legally by rearranging. Now, I'm going to draw a distinction here, because I've seen people advocate a very sharp and unethical practice, which and I don't condone that whatsoever. And this is not it. So what they say is, well, you string a seller along, you get right up to exchange, and then you hammer them with a reduction, and on the basis that they're so far along with you that they got no alternative but to reluctantly and with bad feeling accept your reduced offer. I think that's a despicable and a very unethical practice, and I'm certainly not suggesting or condoning anyone that does that. I think you just create, it's all, property purchasing is all about creating win-wins for people, and I believe that that practice is contrary to that. But this is a bit different. That we've had a severe economic shock, clearly, Felix, and that could have an impact on property prices. So I would have a chat with all the people involved in your transaction. Chat to if you're buying it through an agent, chat to the agent, chat to your solicitor. If you're using a broker, chat to your broker, and get them to chat to the lender, and see whether see what the lender thinks, because the lender may actually be saying, hang on a minute, it might not be you instigating this, possibly, because we don't know. See, this is all up in the air at the moment. The lender could be saying once they're back, because the lenders put your mortgage on hold. And again, as I said earlier in this broadcast, that some lenders have done exactly that. They're not processing anything. So it could be that your underwriter, when they pick up your case after lockdown, it could be that the underwriter says, hey, hang on a minute, we want to go back to our valuer to get them to reconfirm the value, or if it's a lower value, we're going to rewrite that, get that valuation report rewritten. Now, if they come back with a lower valuation, they're almost certainly going to revise their offer downward. So, you may have no option really to go back to the seller and say, look, hey, it's not me. My lender's revalued the property, and look, here's a copy of the valuation report. So I can't actually continue the transaction at the price we agreed. But I'm happy to renegotiate the price. So hopefully that helps you, Felix. And happy to help you on that. Okay, Beverly, good morning. Hope you're having a fine Monday morning. Do I have any experience to get a commercial mortgage for a property that's going to be used by a charity? Yes, we do. And it's almost identical to the response I gave to Clive earlier on, that you can't use a standard AST because the charity is not going to be the tenant. You have to use a commercial lease, and because you've got a commercial lease, no standard buy-to-let mortgage lender is going to mortgage on that, because they can't. If you don't pay them and they have to repossess you, they can't give the charity 2 months notice to quit, because there's no facility in the commercial lease for them to do that, so they're not lending. So there's a very natural home for these commercial contracts, which is commercial lenders. So, yep. Have we got experience? Yes, we have. If you've got that in mind, Beverly, just scroll up through the chat box. You'll see my number there. I'll probably pop it in again for anyone that didn't see that before. So let's just type this out here. 79. Yeah, enter. So just pop that in there. So if you want to pursue that, Beverly, then just get in touch, and happy to help you broker that through my colleagues in the office. Okay, so there we are. Ran a bit over today. I said up until 9, but of course I said I'll check that. I'll carry on if there's questions. Okay, if you've missed some of this and you want to watch the whole thing, then just go to Facebook, go to my Kevin Wright Property Finance Expert page, and you'll see the whole thing and previous week's Monday morning interactions with interested investors. So just go in there and like that, follow me on there, and you'll get notifications that these will be running every Monday. So thanks for your time this morning. Been great to see you, and people have joined through the session, so that's great. Whether you asked a question or not, great thing about answering questions is that one person asks the questions, but many people can get value from the answer. So always happy to do that. So I'll say cheerio for now. Hope you have a great week. Suspend all of that because David's just come in with a question. Okay, so I said I'll answer. You just squeaked in there. Another probably 20 seconds and you'd have missed out on that. But okay, so let's stay on a couple of minutes longer and answer David's question. Okay, regarding bridging loans to remortgage, you have a property worth 320 and a mortgage of 169. Also a 20% salary payment to the ex-council previous owners. Okay, so yeah, very good. Okay, so let me summarize what I think is going on here, David. Okay, you were the tenant in a council property. You exercised your option under the right to buy legislation to buy at a possibly substantial discount. It's usually a 5-year lock-in, during which that time, if you sell the property, that's right. Yeah, if you sell the property, you have to repay the council the discount, because understandably they don't want, let's say, to get someone to get £100,000 discount on to buying a property and then just put it up for sale the week after and pocket the 100 grand. So, and they were smart enough to realize that there could be some unscrupulous people that would do that. So they lock you in for 5 years on a sliding scale that goes down with each year, so that if you sell the property within 5 years, you have to pay back a percentage of the discount you got, and you're currently at 20%. Yeah, you're in year 4. Yeah, so you're in year 4, so you only pay back 20% now. Okay, now you're going to find it difficult to get any lending based on that, simply because if they have to repossess you because you don't pay them, and again, any lender always looks at the worst case scenario. You don't pay us, we have to repossess. Now, any bridger that puts a charge on that is going to have to go behind your first mortgage, 169, plus the council's charge. So I think it's highly unlikely that you're going to get any joy on that. That's unfortunate, but you've clearly got a lot of equity in there. You've got almost 50% equity. So once you're free of the council's restriction, and if you're in year 4, you haven't got long to go, then what you're looking at is a cross collateral charge is going to be relevant. Now, I see you've come through on YouTube, so maybe you've seen my video of the 5 types of bridging, which a cross collateral bridge is one of those. So if you haven't, check out that video, because I'll explain in more detail how cross collateral bridging works. So I think you're just a little bit early on that. And listen, until we're back into a fully functioning property market, nothing's much going to happen anyway. So that's going to eat up a bit more of that year until you can do that. So, but when you want to do that, and when you're free to do that, happy to help. So just save my number and get back in touch. Great. Okay. So thanks for coming on. Thanks for your question. Okay. So now we are going to wrap up and say thanks for attending today. If you want to find out more about what I do and follow some of the posts that I put out on my Facebook page, Kevin Wright Property Finance Expert, then just go find that on Facebook, like and follow it, and you'll see the stuff that I've been posting out, and happy to help you from there. Other than that, and also go to my YouTube channel, Kevin Wright Property. There's a whole stack of videos on there, property finance tips, Q&As like we've done today, and also my mentee case studies for the people that have done some training with me in how to buy property counterintuitively and finance it counterintuitively. We're looking at live case studies, and we're following them through episode by episode to see how they turn out. So if you've enjoyed what we've done today, then I'll see you some way or another in the future, and I'll be here again next week, 8:30 Monday morning, to welcome you to the week. So have a great week, and bye for now.